A hand knocks twice on a heavy wooden door. The man who opens it, a thick ledger tucked under one arm, steps back without a word and lets her in. Behind the door, a small room lined floor to ceiling with ledgers, one for every era this channel has ever told a story about. For this finale, I pulled every ledger this season opened and laid them side by side. And this one plays just as well in the car or on a run as it does sitting still. If you invest in anything, what follows is the closest thing this channel has to one unifying answer about risk. On the desk, a row of 7 small objects, each recovered from a different chapter of this season, each left exactly as it was found. 7 objects for 7 stories, and at the end of the row, a space just wide enough for an 8th, still completely empty. The shelves here go back further than one season. Older pages hold a private banking dynasty, a hidden island meeting, a crash and a rebuilt shield, a century-long fight over who decides what money is, and a ledger kept by thousands of strangers who signed only as Satoshi Nakamoto. But tonight belongs to this season's own volume, 7 case files, one for every promise we already watched break. Printing, delusion, one man, the system, war, mathematics, and habit. If 7 systems failed in 7 different ways, is there anything left standing that every single one of them still depended on? Let's move through the row quickly, then find out. In Berlin, in 1923, Rudolf Havenstein kept the printing presses running until the mark meant nothing, and ordinary Germans hauled wheelbarrows of notes just to buy bread. What broke was belief in the paper itself. What survived was everything underneath the currency. The bakery reopened, barter and hard goods carried people through, and a new, disciplined mark eventually replaced it. He touches the torn banknote in the row and moves on. In Paris in 1720, John Law and Philippe of Orleans let paper money multiply far faster than the colony behind it could justify, until a scale weighing paper against gold tipped, and the entire scheme collapsed within months. What survived was the underlying idea itself. Paper money came back, slower and more carefully, refined, rather than abandoned. He rights the broken scale slightly, though he cannot undo the break. In London, in 1992, George Soros and Stanley Druckenmiller bet billions that the pound could not hold its peg. And by evening, after 3 rate hikes in one day, Norman Lamont let it float free. What survived was the British economy itself, which recovered faster, once freed from the peg, than almost anyone predicted. A single trade, and even here, a currency system's own contradictions did most of the work. In 2008, Richard Fould's refusals and a web of leverage no one fully controlled brought a Wall Street firm down, while Henry Paulson and Ben Bernanke worked to keep the wider system from freezing solid. What survived, quietly, was deposit insurance, the same shield invented after 1929. Not one insured saver behind it actually lost a cent. He sets the snapped pen back exactly where he found it. In London in 1943, Bernhard Kruger's Sachsenhausen workshop, staffed by prisoners including Adolf Berger, manufactured counterfeit British notes precise enough to fund real sabotage. Money turned deliberately into a weapon. What survived was the pound itself, and banknote verification that grew noticeably harder to fool afterward, a direct answer to exactly this attack. He holds the spent shell casing a moment longer than the rest. In Greenwich, in 1998, John Merriweather's fund, built on Myron Scholes and Robert Merton's own Nobel-winning models, stacked leverage like an unsteady tower of coins until a real panic in the market made it fall. What survived was the mathematics itself, still taught, still used today, inside far tighter limits on leverage. He restacks the small pile of coins into a shorter, steadier shape. And in Buenos Aires, one family's bakery watched the same promise made and broken 9 separate times across nearly 140 years through Javier Milei's recent reforms and Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner's restructurings before him. The bakery itself never once closed. What survived was the real economy underneath. Bread sold, work done, regardless of what the currency in the till was worth that year. He places the piece of chalk at the end of the row himself. 7 objects. 7 ways the same promise failed. And still, at the end of that row, one space remains, exactly the width it was at the start of tonight, completely empty. 14 episodes now, 2 seasons. Is there anything about money that has never actually broken? Lay every era in this room side by side. Gold, paper, a peg, a model, a habit, a private family, a hidden meeting, a rebuilt shield, and a ledger kept by thousands who signed only as Satoshi Nakamoto. And one thread runs through all of it, a shared, honest record of who owns what. What sits underneath that record survives too, the real work and trade happening regardless of the currency above it, and the specific repairs, deposit insurance, tighter verification, leverage limits that each held the next time they were tested. He crosses to the highest shelf and lifts down a single volume with no spine marking at all, blank, unlike every other book in this room. He sets it down at the end of the row, filling the space. Not a torn banknote, not a broken scale, not anything broken at all. A ledger, blank, waiting to be written. What has never broken is not any form money has taken, but the practice of keeping an honest record of it at all. That is not the same as saying this idea has solved risk for good. Every substitute this season covered, including a ledger kept by thousands instead of one, has broken under specific pressure of its own. This is one more attempt in a long line, not a final answer. For the first time in this series, he holds the pen out, not to write with it himself, but to offer it. Her hand closes around it slowly, heavier than she expected. But she does not write yet. This season still deserves to be closed the right way first. The same way every chapter in this room always has been. The legend treats every collapse this season as the same story. The record shows 7 genuinely different mechanisms. Not one story told 7 times, and only one of them, Soros's trade, really centers on a single actor. The legend says institutions never learn. The record shows deposit insurance, tighter verification, leverage limits, and floating exchange rates were each built directly after a failure in this row, and each one held the next time it was tested. The legend keeps looking for one permanent safe asset that never fails. The record shows every substitute this season, covered, gold, a peg, a formula, a habit of lending, eventually broke under pressure of its own. Nothing here has ever been exempt, and the legend treats a leaderless ledger as a final solution. The record treats it, even-handedly, as one more serious attempt in a long line, one that solved a single vulnerable keeper without solving every other kind of risk money carries. So, here's what this season leaves behind. Money keeps breaking, in genuinely different ways, for genuinely different reasons, and every single time, someone rebuilds a way to write down, honestly, what happened next. Tell us in the comments, of these 7 ways money broke this season, which one would you have seen coming, and which one would have caught you completely by surprise? If stories that explain why the financial world actually breaks and rebuilds itself are useful to how you think about risk, that is the entire reason this channel exists. Subscribing simply means the next one finds you. This episode covers documented economic history across 2 seasons for education and entertainment. It is not financial advice, and every event summarized here deserves its own independent research before anyone acts on it. Now, the ritual this season has earned. He turns back through the whole of this year's ledger one final time. A page each for Weimar, John Law, Soros, 2008, Bernhard, LTCM, and Argentina, before adding one last line, dated to tonight. Its ending, not yet written. He closes this year's ledger and sets it for the last time back on its shelf, beside all the others that came before it, then turns back to the desk and gives a single small nod. It is finally her turn. She sits, dips the pen, and writes the very first line this new book has ever held. Its contents left, for now, exactly as unreadable as every other line in this room has always been. No one watching tonight knows yet what belongs on that page, not even her. Somewhere on a shelf that does not exist yet, a spine is being pressed for the first time, and its story has not been decided by anyone in this room. Eventually, they both look toward the door left standing open at the far end of the room, evening light still faintly visible beyond it. This season was never really about 8 ways money breaks. It was about the 8th thing that keeps getting rebuilt every time. Thank you for spending 2 seasons of history with this channel. Whatever the next chapter turns out to be, it starts the same way every chapter in this room always has, quietly, with a single honest line. The promise breaks, the record survives, and somewhere, quietly, a new hand has already picked up the pen.